GutterballRally Radio, where the fast life meets the fast lane.
Yeah.
You're now tuned into Bars and Hoops Radio.
Yeah.
The world of hip-hop and sports live.
Dropping the clutch and then I hit the gas. Wheels screeching, tires burning, I'm flying past. Gotta get home quick, don't wanna miss the class. They schooling you on whips and how to make them fast. Talking about everything from cars to planes. What's hot, what's next, and how to flip the game. They talk in my language, we speak the same. That whip talk complex, but yet they keep it plain. From the news, the interviews, they keep it cool. They give reviews, everything from parts to tools. Can't lose, come to whips, they not no fools. Don't miss the show, the start time is noon. The bearded one, S.I Shawn, they crazy though. You can't miss it, tune in to Rally Radio.
Where the fast life meets the fast lane.
Woo, 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 woo. Shout out to everybody tuned in, paying attention. You already know what it is, man. It's the bearded one here. And that's it. Shout out to everybody tuned in, paying attention. For right now, S.I Shawn, he got another paid day off from management. But we are in the building early. You already know what it is. And I know you see the title up ahead. We're going to jump right into it. Why do we always want the car we should have bought years later? And I think every car guy could definitely comment on that. You don't understand how many times you be like, oh man, I should have bought that. I should have had it. And now when it come out the second time, you're like, you know what, I'm getting it. Or you may run into a clean version of it. And you're saying to yourself, you know what, I'm going to get that. So I just want to know, because we got a lot of new nice cars out. Was on my Joe Biden right there. The new nice cars out. But a lot of times we just act like they're not there until they discontinue. And then when they discontinued, all of a sudden we want them. Now we paying double, triple, quadruple the price for the same car we could have had for minus that. So why is that, man? Answer that for all the car guys up ahead. Shout out to everybody tuned in, paying attention. Car guys and car gals. Shout out to my guy, Dawg Spalding, in the building early. You already know what it is. We appreciate you early. Don't forget, drop your name, drop a comment so we can shout you out. You already know what it is, man. Shout out to everybody who's tuned in, paying attention, man. We are in the building early. There's a couple little goony goon things going on out here in the automotive world, man. And you definitely know we got it with the understeer today. But there's so many different things that people are doing, and I'm trying to understand why. But maybe that's my problem. I shouldn't be trying to understand it. It's hilarious, though. Shout out to everybody who's tuned in, paying attention, see the numbers jumping up. Don't forget, you can find us on YouTube at GutterballRally, Facebook at GutterballRally. You can also download the Bars and Hoops Radio app and find us here at 12 noon. You already know what it is. Shout out to Jessica Grandy. You already know what it is. We appreciate you early. And don't forget, head over to GutterballRally and drop us a like, man, on Facebook if you can. Subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't already. And don't forget, pass it around to your people. We got a lot of things going on here today, man. I'm going to tell you, I've seen a lot of goon things going on here, man. And, it's been all in the news. All kind of silly stuff with autos. And it's like, I don't understand for the life of me why we even doing these things. Shout out to my guy, Seneca. He's in the building early. You already know what it is. Let's go. It's a lot of clown business going on out here, man. And, I normally don't start with the understeer, right? But there's just been so many different things that I got to say to myself, listen, you got to start looking at this like people really got to stop like bugging out here, man. You got people crashing cars for no reason. Matter of fact, we're not even going to jump all the way into it. Shout out to everybody. We're going to get into it a little later, man. But we appreciate everybody that's tuned in, paying attention. Last week was one heck of a show. Tried to get y'all to understand how the more we give up control for security, you turn it into a prison. And a lot of times now, that's what we're looking at with autos now. It's starting to turn into our own prison. You get in there, and they're going to be watching you how I got these cameras on me right now. That's what they're going to be doing. It's definitely something you got to pay attention to. It's going on everywhere. Now they want to watch your driver's position. You want a camera watching your driver's position. See if you start slouching, then that means you're tired, or that could mean you're drunk. They're going to put drunk driver breathalyzer in the car, but not something that you got to breathe into every trip. Now it look like it's just going to be something that's going to test the air inside the car, and if there's alcohol in the air in the car, it look like it won't start, or it's going to shut off and pull over to the side. I mean, when you think about all the securities and fail safes that they putting on, you're starting to wonder, do they even want you on the road? And I think that's something we got to think about, man. Like, driving is our freedom. And I think that's one thing we always hit on here at GutterballRally and Rally Radio. Driving is our freedom. That's all we got. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you gotta jump out the window and shout the Seneca. That's exactly where we going today, which is probably why a lot of the cars that we really be wanting, we buy them years later, because they are analog cars. They are cars that actually need you to drive them, not a car that can drive itself. And I think about when I was a kid, man, I used to be in love with Kit from Knight Rider, man. I loved that car, man. It was talking, he had the watch. I mean, that car had to save Michael Knight so many times, kid. It was hilarious. I was like, yo, and they never really, I don't know if they ever paid that guy's salary. Shout to my guy, Josh, living in the building early. He ain't tuned in a minute. Sounds like they want to control every aspect of your life, he says. Drives 90s and 2000s, no issues. That's a fact. That is a fact. Other than, the little issues you're going to run around with everyday automotive use. We already know what it is, changing oil, things like that. But that stuff doesn't bother us, especially for us certified car girls and car gals. You already know what it is. It doesn't bother us. But, they trying to have people change their whole outlook on a lot of different things because, aren't you tired of fixing or changing oil? Or we could go electric. And it's just hilarious out here, man. And you know what? It just goes like I had a big debate with a coworker of mine, and I was just like, it is very hard to explain this. Like, if we talking about safety, right? Obviously, if you want to go with an EV, I can understand that if you think about safety, like, but then again, they have their unsafe features, and we already know what it is. Listen, Randall Cobb played a wide receiver for the Jets, wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers. House caught on fire. Nobody wants to buy. It was the car. Nah, it was the charger. Who installed the charger? Oh, it was electricity. His electric wiring in his house needed to be redone. I mean, the man got money. You don't think that he went out there and actually paid Byron up the block to do the wiring in the crib? I know y'all don't think that. So it's like, you got to start really looking at that. Shout out to my guy, Shy. He's in the building early. Let's go. You already know what it is. Shout out to everybody who's tuned in, paying attention. But with that being said, why do we always want the cars we should have bought years later? That happens all the time. But it's like I said, now, you look at, it was like, EV cars are the safest as per 100,000 vehicles produced. Like, it's more likely for a gas car to catch on fire than an EV car. Okay. But at the end of the day, to me, that's one of those arguments where you say, well, okay, we okay with cars catching on fire. No, but when you look at how unknown a lot of this technology is, and that's really where it comes from. It's unknown. This is not something that they pushed on the public use first. Like, we didn't just make it cop cars. We didn't just make it fire trucks, garbage trucks, things like that. No, we want to give it to the people first. And if it catch fire, then they the test dummies. They the guinea pigs. No. Gas engines have been around for a long time. Shout to my guy, Aaron Roy is in the building early. Shout to him. You already know what it is. And I just sit back and sometimes I'm in awe that somebody would want one of these things. And the more I see them, the more I see people drive them, the more it turns me off. It's like, you know what, man? Listen, y'all can have them. If y'all like them, y'all can have them. I'm not going to badmouth you. I'm badmouthing the car. You could choose to drive whatever you want to drive. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, the EV is where I draw the line. Like I said, the closest shot to my guy shot, the closest we need to be is hybrid. In my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. They trying to run before they even walk, and it's showing. And it is showing. But with that being said, you already know what it is, man. It's the Bearded One here. We in the building, and we got a lot to talk about today. Why do we always want the cars we should have bought years ago? Case in point, I ran into a little legend car recently, right? Shout out to everybody tuned there paying attention. I ran into a little legend car, and the car had been sitting around for a little while. I've been peeping it for years. And to me, it's something that I can't say I always wanted, but they started to grow on me. And the more I seen it, I just didn't bother with it. And then I finally asked the magical question, like, whose car is that? And the more I asked the question, the more I got into like whose it was and what it was doing there. And it's like, you know what? This car is a legend. This car is sitting here. And it's like, damn, man, I want it. But it was like, you know what? I could have had one years ago. Why didn't I buy it then? You know what? It's a good question, man. It happens to a lot of us. We see a lot of these, the Supra. Let's take the Toyota Supra, for instance. Shout out to S.I Shawn. He's not here to defend his little Supras. You know what I mean? But he take that personal. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, the Toyota Supra, when it first came out, not the MK4 Supra, they really didn't sell that well. And everybody knows that. I don't think I'm saying nothing that's different or new to anybody, right? Now that the MK4 doesn't sell the way it does, you know, it goes the way of most sports cars that don't really sell. You find them in people's backyards covered with dirt or something like that, right? And now when they're unavailable and they pop up in a certain movie, we already know what that movie is. Now all of a sudden the prices are astronomical. I saw one the other day on I think it was an article that came out. It went for like almost $300,000. That's like a 200% versus what it was worth or what it cost back then when they first came out. Shout out to my guy Josh Lee. He said, how many people can actually afford a $30,000 EV battery plus miscellaneous parts and labor? I'm gonna tell you, these cats, when it come to these EVs, they not even gonna tell you that. They like this. Nah, I'm good. I ain't worried about it. That battery goes on their EV, they gonna suffer in silence, Josh. I'm telling you, they're not gonna tell you that they spent 30 bands or the new battery. They're not gonna do it because they don't want people to know these things, man. I'm telling you. And when you look at it, to me, I say to myself all the time, that's what, if I can't fix it myself, I kind of don't want it. If I can't wheel it in the backyard and go, you know what, it needs a new battery. Let me get a new car battery, not an EV battery. But let me get a new car battery and put it in. Oh, it needs an oil change. I can do that myself. Oh, it needs spark plugs or whatever it needs, distributor, wires, rope, whatever it needs. You can do it. You have the option. You be like, yeah, you know what? I can fix this myself. I take it to the backyard or to the driveway and I can fix this. But now you're talking about cars you just can't touch. And as a matter of fact, they're trying to make it illegal. They like, yeah, you know what? You break in anti-piracy laws when you start touching around on EVs. And a lot of people don't know that. Look, think about the neighborhood mechanic. Think about how many careers that car shuts down all in itself. And like I said, listen, we all know the future is inevitable. Technology is inevitable. You know what I mean? But at the same time, shout out to my guy Miller. At the same time, right? Are we ready for this right now? Look at Texas right now. Look at Houston. Houston underwater with no power. And they've been without power for about 4 or 5 days. And they said they don't know when the power's coming back. And when you look at that, right? You look at that and you say to yourself, yo, do you trust having an electric vehicle? Now, on top of it being no power, is dumb hot. It was like 115 degrees out there. Well, let me not exasperate it, but probably like 108. I think I'm close. And could you imagine suffering through that and you can't just drive and leave? Think about that. There's no way you're going to be able to charge the car. So now you got to be real careful. You're like, you know what? Think about this. And then there was other people getting gas. Yeah, they waited online for an hour, but they was able to get gas. But you wasn't able to charge at all. There was no power throughout the city. It's crazy. Shout out to my guy, Nicholas. Let's go. Let's go. You already know what it is, man. Don't forget Splash Brothers. Splash Brothers. Don't forget. You already know what it is. Shout out to him. He said the Dodge Magnum, man. You know, my dad got one. He said when he got it like 6-7 years ago, I was like, you spent that money on a station wagon, but it got a 5.7 Hemi that everyone loves and now wish they had. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's going to get to a point where it's like, you know, it's just how I would like to believe it's like how car guys and car girls are wired. We just wired different. You know, listen, I'm not really necessarily into the new tech, into the new thing and all of that. I'm really into how this thing drives. You know what I mean? So it's like that's what really, really moves me when it comes down to the end of the day. Shout out to Josh Lee. He said the Honda Ioniq EV battery is more expensive than the actual car itself. And that's scary. This is what I'm talking about. It's going to get, I'm telling you, it's going to get to a point where they really just want to take the shell off your car and replace it with a new shell and have you drive off. They're going to have you pay new car money for a car that's not new. They're getting into unibodies. Now you get into an accident with one of these cars. It's like you don't know the condition of the EV battery under there. Now the insurance is writing the cars off. Like, this is a loss. The world is not yet ready. And this is why I say it should have been pushed into public services before people. Should have been garbage trucks first, fire trucks first, ambulances, police cars, or even if you don't want to go that far as far as rescue, search and rescue vehicles like ambulance or fire. We could do things like make them government vehicles. You know what I mean? But they won't do that. Shout the Shadow Gamer. You already know what it is, man. We appreciate you early. He's tuned in early. And they got the biggest question. At first off, shout the first stop to the next stop tuning in. We appreciate y'all early. You already know what it is. The bearded one I'm rolling solo today. I rolls dolo from state to state. Nah, I'm stop playing. You already know what it is. But we got to ask ourselves, why do we always want the car we should have had or we should have bought years ago? I feel like it appeals to us more when we see the things that come out in the future. And I think that is a main factor. I take myself for instance, right? Many a times I could have had all different. It was all different kind of cars I was looking into at the time. I remember I wanted a Fox body Mustang. I always wanted one. I remember the first time I ever really seen when I seen one putting in some work, all black. Beautiful car. Especially when I seen it in Menace to Society, when Kane had one, he put the Daytons on it. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? So now, here's the deal, right? Here's the deal. I go and I see one. I remember I seen one for $1,000. Obviously, it needed work. I'm not talking about nothing that's brand new. You know what I mean? Shout to my guy, Dr. Phil. Let's go. He said I should have bought a C7 Grand Sport back in 2019. This is what I'm saying. I hate that feeling. I found this car for $1,000, manual, engine ran. It just had issues. Don't get it twisted. And it was sitting in like a lot. It didn't have crazy like body issues. Like body wasn't really a real problem. It had its little rust spots here and there that we gonna handle. But it was $1,000. I was like, I can't lose. It drives right now. And I did not get it. I did not buy it. You know what I mean? And you know what? Now, try to find one now. Shout to my guy, Keith. You already know what it is. He got a nasty Fox. And shout to Sly Fox, my guy. He's another one. They got some clean body. So I look at it like this. At the end of the day, it's like, why do we always do that to ourselves? And we buy the car we should have had years later. You know what I mean? That's one of the reasons why when I saw this Type R, I jumped on it. Don't get me wrong. I was in the market for a Hellcat. And you know what? Now that I see the thiefing numbers, and we're going to talk about that too. Now that I see the thiefing numbers, I'm kind of glad I didn't. Not saying Honda don't suffer from it either, because that would be blasphemous, but it's true. But it's like now, you look at it like I'm probably going to get a Hellcat years later. Here we go. Why do we do that? I don't know. Don't forget the phone lines is open 516-206-0711. With that being said, we're just going to talk about that a little bit, but we're going to jump right into the show. We got a lot of things going on, man. Shout out to everybody tuned in, paying attention. I wanted to send a special shout out to, man, all of the Porsche drivers, man, because y'all are really, really inspiring me to get a brand new one. Don't be shocked if I get a brand new one. I'm trying. But with that being said, we are here. We are in the building. S.I Shawn actually got a day off from management, so that's pretty cool. He got a paid day off, so he will be back in here next week. But in the meantime, should have bought a C7 Grand Sport back in 2019. And you know what? That's another thing, too. A lot of times I held back on certain autos because of the price. And I think about it like at that time, I didn't have as many financial obligations. I could have afforded the car with no problem. But it's like, why didn't I do it? I don't know, man. It's like sometimes you just got to listen to yourself and just go for yours, man. With that being said, we're going to jump right into the show. So here we go. Now, if you tuned in last week, you already know what it is, man. We had a good conversation about all the assists and all the different things on cars. Is that really what we want? You know what, man? A lot of stuff came out. We was like, you know what? We don't need everybody to save everybody. We don't listen. Driving is not really what you could do with the assist, is what you do without it. You feel what I'm saying? And I think we came to that consensus last week. That was a great show. Shout out to everybody who tuned in, paying attention for that, man. We appreciate y'all for everybody that tuned in. There's a couple things going on, man. We talked about how they want to add so many different things. They like, oh, you know what? Speed is always a factor. Speed is always a factor. You know, when I hear that, and you get a lot of things, oh, speed. Listen, it's not speed. It's inattention. It's really not. It's inattention, especially if you're attentive. You're not speeding nowhere reckless either, without full control of what you're doing. But that's a whole nother thing. With them putting cameras and speed cameras, I'm telling you, they want to blanket this whole country nationwide in cameras. You got to be careful of that. But that's really what we spoke about right there, man. We had a lot of different things going on. But with that being said, you know how we get down. We got one heck of a show lined up for you today. We're going to jump right into it. Let's go.
Weekly Specs. Auto news for all the listeners, only on Rally Radio.
All right, you already know what it is. Don't forget to call up 516-206-0711. You already know what it is. We're going to jump right in. Connecticut is the second state to not adopt California's EV mandate. Now, for those that don't know, the EV mandate is by 2032, they want to have all of these 2032, 2035. They want to have all cars electric. They want to have a zero emission standard for the CARB. Now, for those that don't know, CARB is California's Air Resource Board. So they definitely want to stop all gas-powered cars. But this is why we're going through this transition right now. But it looked like Virginia was the first one to pull and say, no, we're not going to go with it. Now Connecticut becomes the second state not to do it. And this is actually interesting. As demand for electric vehicles slows, Connecticut lawmakers have discarded plans to follow California into requiring all new cars sold in the state to be electrically powered by the middle of the next decade. Citing a lack of support for the most aggressive deadline, Connecticut's Democratic leadership left out California's mandate to require all new cars to be equipped with electric or plug-in hybrid engine technology from 2035 from Constitution State's long-awaited EV bill. This move follows the Biden administration's decision to defer adoption of the federal EV transition timeline, which is significantly less aggressive than the California plan. Now, the reason that we even talking about this, right, is because at the end of the day, we're starting to understand that one, EVs are slowing down. The sales are slowing down. Who knows what it is? I know what it is. Nobody wants to. But, you know, you let other EV people hear it. Oh, you know, it's the better car. And, you know, you got to keep an open mind and this, that, and the third. And I'll be like, you know what, man? If that's for you, that's for you. It's not for me. I don't want it. You feel what I'm saying? So now, California, whatever California puts into play as far as the environment is concerned, at least 17 states have to adopt it. But now they're trying to make it law across the land. And this is where they're losing people. Because now it's turning into a point where you have a place like Texas, where they're underwater, where they're getting all kind of different natural disasters. And it's like, do you really want to hinge it on having power, on making sure you have power to do what you got to do? A lot of people don't want to do that. I personally don't want to do that. I don't trust it like that because you're going to be running a generator just to charge it. It's crazy. But this is what it is. But Connecticut is saying, no, we're not doing it. And I think that's good for them. Because at the end of the day, how is somebody, and Virginia said this, the Virginia governor said, he said, how are you going to govern my state from 3,000, 4,000 miles away? They need to worry about what's going on over there right now because the car thievery, the takeovers, the crime, the robbery, people getting stuck up out there. It's getting, LA got their own problems and they need to be worried about their own problems. But at the end of the day, I'm happy that Connecticut actually said they're not going to pull the trigger on this because they got to understand at one point, man, listen, this is not what we want to do. This is not what we want. So shout to them, man. Let's give them a little. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. They're going to have to do what they got to do. But in the meantime, it looks like a South Carolina, and this is what I'm talking about. South Carolina sheriff just bought his whole department a fleet of 2024 Ford Mustang GTs. Wow. He said, you know what? Everybody want to do this? We believe in sheer horsepower. He said the Richland County Sheriff's Department 15-member community action team now has 17 different Mustangs to drive. The deputies in the Richland County Sheriff Department Community Action Team, aka CAT, just scored a major upgrade to their fleet. On July 1st, Leon Lott pulled the cover off for 17 new S650 Generation 4 Mustang GTs, which the department hopes will help start conversations and build relationships with the community at large. This is what I'm talking about. Tax breaks to secondary buyers and they lose out. I'm talking about the EVs. It's crazy. But in the meantime, it looks like, according to the state, it's not the first time that Lott has selected muscle cars for his officers. Lott created the CAT unit in 98 during his first term as sheriff with the intention of building a presence in the community outside of immediate responses to crime. Lott initially chose to outfit his officers with fourth-generation Chevy Camaros. After Chevy discontinued the Camaro in 2003, Lott deputies found themselves in Dodge Magnums. Wow, this dude is really not playing. Shout to this guy Lott, man, from Richland State. He still seems like he's playing. He seems like he's like, you know what? Horsepower is horsepower. We got to do what we got to do. Shout to him, man. And that's what you got to start really thinking about, too. If we make them police cars, and we already know, we've seen the nastiest police chases ever, right? If you smash into one of these EV cars or something like that, don't they shut off? I saw a Tesla being in a high-speed chase the other day, and he was actually getting away. Shout to this guy. But unfortunately, he's driving the wrong car, right? He's actually started to get away, and he hit a car that was running out, that ran the red light. But he didn't really hit it. What happened was he just barely nicked it. But the car stopped. He hit it, the hazards came on immediately, and the car just stopped right in the street. And I was like, wow. I was like, now, we don't know if it was because of the accident or if the police actually reined that one in. And you know what? We're going to leave it up to the people. But at the end of the day, it's what happened. And you got to say to yourself, man, listen, when it comes down to them driving as far as being police cars, you figure if anybody taps one or anything like that, what if it shuts off in the middle of a chase? I remember my people back in the day, what they would do. We ain't going to put nothing out there too crazy, but they always said that if they was in a jam, they would just back right into one of the Crown Vics. Hopefully the airbags come out and it disable the car. And I was like, damn. I was like, when you look at it like that, you say that to yourself, you're like, yo, it could possibly happen. But it just makes you think, man, like, I'm telling you, are these electric vehicles really for us? You got to start really thinking about that. Does it fall into what we trying to do? And a lot of times it doesn't. When you look around, you see a lot of the different things going on. You like, you know what? And then it's the price of them. The price of them themselves are crazy. But in the meantime, got a couple other things. It looks like Toyota. Now, we talked about this too. Toyota has actually come out. The CEO or ex-CEO of Toyota, Akito Toyoda, came out and said that he was right, because you could tell by now how the EVs are dropping that he was actually right all along in slowing them cars down. And like, you know what? We don't need them, because if everybody remembers, Toyota wanted to actually get rid of him as chairman, but the shareholders wouldn't agree to it because they said, you know what? He actually knows what he's talking about. And they was right. They was right. He actually knew what he was talking about and said, you know what? We're going to slow down this EV thing. And he did. And you know what? Because he didn't jump all the way in and make Toyota's lines fully EV, Toyota's still doing well, where now Dodge has to look out for themselves. Ford is asking you to like their cars once again, which is hilarious to me, in my opinion. And now, even the Porsche Taycan EV sales are dropping, and it seems like nobody wants them outside of the price. I think it's the price and the practicality of it. Because if you don't live in the city, it's not practical. But it looks like that's where they're going. People are like, yo, you know what? They don't want it. So this is very interesting in itself because now we seeing that Toyota is saying that, you know what, I was right all along. And what's your thoughts on that? Don't forget, give us a call, 516-206-0711. Shout to Akio Toyota. He said, slowing EV demand proves I was right all along. People are finally seeing reality. The former CEO said about the dangers of an all-in approach to EVs. Toyota has been one of the slower adopters of electric vehicles. We already know that for the most part. They watch the rest of the industry jump into it, and you watch some companies just completely stop producing gas-powered cars altogether, like Volvo. Jump right in. CEO said we won't be able to do it if we don't have the government get involved. We won't be able to do it, and they did. They jumped all the way in. I believe Hyundai now is getting to the point where they servicing their last or getting to their last gas engines. Volkswagen with a big, they spent a lot of money going EV. So now everybody's trying to figure out, oh, Toyota, they're dragging their feet. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. But you know what? He was right. And now when you look at the slowing sales, could you imagine? Toyota also has a lot of different issues they're dealing with too right now. Rally Radio, who we got in the box? Oh, did I hang up? Yep, Rally Radio. Did I hang up? Call back, caller. Call back. Call back. Call back. But with that being said, man, there's a lot of different things that they had going on over there. So now that demand is shrinking, interest rates are going higher. So now those cars look unattainable, unaffordable. You got to say to yourself, was he right? And I say, yeah, he was right. Toyota was leading the charge in the hybrids because at that time, I believe they had the Prius. They had a couple other cars. Camry was hybrid. They had a couple hybrid cars. But it looks like now that it's waning, everybody's like, you know what? He was right. And he said something really key that a lot of people wasn't paying attention to. He said, okay, we got the caller back. Rally Radio, we got in the box. Miller time. What's going on, my brother? Same thing. What's popping? That's all good, man. I tell you what, at the end of the day, these are like exercises. But what's popping though? What's going on? Whoop, 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 whoop. I think that a lot. I think I try to tell people all the time, like, they will say, oh, in the beginning, they was like, oh, you got to have an open mind. That's why me and SI be cracking up about it. But I think the thing is that they just not practical. But what was your thoughts on it? Uh-huh. That's a fact. Well, shout to you, Miller. The caller said they can't hear you. Give me 2 seconds. Let me see if we can fix that. You already know how that goes. It's okay. Go to the Bars and Hoops Radio app. Oh, nah, it's all good. It's all good. I tell you what, though. I tell you what. the next time we got coming around probably won't be too soon, but we're gonna have some other things for you to come up here though, because we definitely got some things we're gonna talk about up here. They said they can't hear you. You know why they can't hear you? And like you said, they on the app. All right. Hey Miller. Now go ahead, continue on. And they shut it down. I'm telling you, YouTube and all of that. I'm telling you. Shout out to everybody who tuned in paying attention. You already know what it is, man. I'm telling you. I'm gonna figure out and I'm gonna get to the bottom of this, Miller. Call me back in like another 15 minutes. We're gonna get to the bottom of this sound thing, and then we because I want the people to hear what you're saying. All right, all right, copy that. All right, later. Shout out to everybody who's tuned in paying attention. I don't know what be going on with the phone. Sometimes everything is lined up, and it's just sometimes I don't know. But with that being said, though, shout out to Shawn. You said range anxiety is what's killing the EV. It's why Toyota's all hybrid and Kia Honda is moving for having the best range. Shout out to my guy Draco. He's in the building early. Let's go. He said, real quick, car show at the Javits next Sunday. Y'all rolling? Of course I'm going. Of course I'm going. Of course I'm going. Matter of fact, there's something popping up tomorrow at Crown. The Crown Speed Labs is going to be interesting. You know, I like these shows. This block party is definitely interesting. You know what, though? But then that brings you to another thing. How many of you guys and car girls are really feel like your car is safe when you bring it to a car meet? And I think I was talking about this the other day. I saw a video on it. How even in the UK, they slapping Apple tags and things like that on your car. Next thing you know, they trying to come to your house and get your car in the middle of the night. And you know what? That's really been a reservation of mine with a lot of different car shows. It's like, or not even car shows, let's say car meets. Because like when you go to a car meet, you really don't know who you got around you. People be acting like they're checking out your car, slap an Apple tag on it and break out. And you're thinking, whoa, oh, he liked my car. Next thing you know, they coming through 3 a.m. with 2 other stolen cars trying to steal your car. And that's what I think is so bold about it. It's like these guys are like, it just makes you wonder, like, yo, they're coming through with 2 other stolen cars and they're stealing your car. I think that's just bold as thieves. And we were just looking at this other one. Shout to Marlon, resident Toyota guy. Shout to Draco. He said, when I used to bring Betty to E-Town, I watch everybody. That's a fact. And it was to the point where you was actually going to spend the extra money to be not necessarily in the car show. Like they would be like, oh, you know, you could participate in the car show. It's going to cost you an extra $25. And people would pay it because they could park it at a point where not everybody could get to it, or people, at least it's not in the grass over there at E-Town where, you know, he was on its own. You know what I mean? Shout out to Josh that everyone need a roommate called Smith and Wesson. I hear that. Sometimes you do, man. You don't even, I'm telling you. It's crazy out here. The more car shows I look at and the things that I want to go to, I'll be like, you got to be careful, man. People out here, they shout to Drake, he said, in the stage section, right? That's where they used to park their cars. It's like, you know what, I'm going to spend the extra money. The $25 or $30 is going to cost me, and park my car over here because I can see it. It's not always in the grass, and they can't get to it. So I've been real, like, you know, wary about where I'm going, especially with the Type R. You know what I mean? Like, been kind of wary about that. Because I've been seeing a lot of things. I remember they had a car meet last year in NYC that we went to. And we loved it, man. I ain't going to put no names out there because I don't want to make it seem like I'm disparaging them as far as their car meets are concerned. But we went to it. We loved it. All kind of JDM cars, things like that. Beautiful. Euro cars, everything. The next 2 days, we see on Instagram that they posted, yo, go over your car because there was guys out there putting air tags in people's cars yesterday. Like, who wants to hear that? So now you go out to your car, you get your phone app out, you searching the car, trying to make sure you ain't got no crazy air tags or nothing hanging off your car. And then after that, you still watching your car for weeks and months. And I always say this all the time. When it comes down to car guys, man, listen. My wife wonder all the time while I'm not sleeping. I'll be like, listen, sometimes I just hear noise and I'm up because you just never know. And I hate to say it. That's just the life of where we live. You know what I mean? Shout out to Drake. He said, I understood why them Vatos would have velvet ropes around their cars. Yeah. Because once they see you move that velvet rope, it was a problem. And especially with low riders. When we're talking $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 paint jobs, pinstripe jobs, Chrome everywhere, mirror everywhere. I mean, the car is fully done one of one. And somebody will want to let their kid jump on the roof? Oh, no. And I know we all saw the video where the kid was jumping on top of the Porsche at the car show. Oh, my goodness, I'd have lost my mind. But this is one of the reasons why I always say to myself all the time, listen, you cannot be having those kind of things, man. Shout out to Shadow Game. He said, I got the formula after my car got stolen because it's so, oh, my goodness. And let me tell you, I've had a motorcycle stolen, and that was just not a good feeling. I will say that. It was just not a good feeling at all. And you know what? It makes you a wiser consumer. I'm telling you, because you be like, yo, I just can't give it to the wolves. I can understand if somebody come put a pistol in your face or something like that. It's a little different story. You're like, you know what? It is what it is. I'm going to lose my life. But while they driving off, you wouldn't like to just shut it off from your car keys? Like, boop, boop. Just shut it down and call it a day? Shout to Shot. He said, type R. Let me tell you, man. I hate hearing that. I wish the phone lines was working properly because then I want to hear all of the stories. But I will say for the most part, man, I don't know, man. It's like you got nice stuff and people want to steal your nice stuff. And I think that's really sometimes the worst part about it. And that also goes into why you didn't want the car then versus why you got it now. When I first bought my red CRX and I was driving around, I'll never forget, I was like, damn, man, I feel like anybody can steal this thing. So I was doing all kind of stuff like taking out the main fuse, the ECU. We was disconnecting the battery. We was doing all kind of tricks to try to keep your car. And then it just got to a point where it was like, man, I'm just not going to drive it here. I'm going to drive. I had bought a Mazda 626. I said, I'm going to drive this. The hoopty, the chuck wagon. I was driving that everywhere. I didn't care. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'd rather drive this and drive that. And that's a lot of times why when you go to a lot of these car shows, people don't be having their nicest cars unless they sit and buy them or unless they got their beach chair next to them. You know what I mean? Because it's crazy like that. Shout out to Draco. He said, I know it sounds stupid, but somebody jack me. I might have to say, I ain't going out like that, Trey. Oh, boy. I don't know about that, killer. I don't know, kid. I don't know. I mean, his cousin Harold looked crazy on the floor for that BMW. That was crazy. His cousin Harold looked crazy on the ground, padlocking the steering column. I mean, we did it all. We was we would do things like when I first got my first motorcycle stolen, I got the second one. I had anchors put in the concrete. Had anchors drilled in the concrete, and I would hook the bike up to it every night. So now with the anchor, you don't need no pole or nothing like that to chain your bike up to. And I mean, I was riding with the chain. I was doing what I had to do. I'm like, yo, nah, it's no way somebody getting me like this again, because I never forget how I felt about it. But it's definitely one of those kind of things you got to, keep in mind. But with that being said, man, looks like Lewis Hamilton was able to pull out another victory. Well, a victory for this year. And this is actually interesting because at the end of the day, it seems like everybody was like not rooting against Lewis Hamilton, but it's like everybody's trying to understand what's going on with Mercedes-Benz that he can't get a win. And that this guy, Max Verstappen, is winning. Shout to my guy, resident Toyota guy, Marlon, because he was pointing out this guy drives crazy. Shout to Drake. He said that OG kill switch on the floorboard. Yo. Let me tell you something, kid. The OG kill switch on the floorboard. I've seen that. Yo, where they got the switch up under the steering column. Shout to Shot. He said double steering wheel club, clutch club. Yep. Shout to Shot of a quick release and taking the ECU and along. We've seen cars, no steering wheel. They take and then that was another thing. So recently, there was a situation in LA in California where a guy that I do follow on YouTube, he was driving his S15 or S14 rather, right? And as he's driving the S14, he actually got pulled over by police for his exhaust in California now, right? So they pull him over, and when the cop walks up to the car, he's looking in the car while he's talking. He's like, "Yo, how long you had that steering wheel?" He's like, oh, I just had the steering wheel installed. He said, so where's the regular steering wheel? He was like, oh, it didn't come with, the regular steering wheel was bad. He was like, yo, you know that this car, I got to deem this car now unsafe because you have a racing steering wheel on your car. He gave him a ticket and told him in order for him to get it deemed back safe, it has to have a steering wheel with an airbag on it. And I'm like, damn, did the S4, did they even come with airbags at that time? And the cop did not care. He wrote the guy a crazy ticket and pretty much told him that the car could not be driven in California. Luckily, the kid was only going to college out there, and he lives in like Indiana. So he was like, I don't care, I'll just drive it home. But it just goes to show like how hard they going. Shout to Draco. He said, speaking of bikes, he said, you see how BSMC is doing Black Dragon? Yeah, it's crazy. He said, kid used to be in class with a Benzie box and a steering wheel. That's a fact. Yo, used to take your stuff with you. And that's why I say, man, cars have come a long way. But it seems like as far as cars done came, pause. As far as they done moved, that now it's like thievery is still a problem. And let me tell you, that was going to be one of our topics today too. Thievery. I don't know if any of y'all watch CNBC. I watch CNBC a lot, right? And CNBC did a special on the amount of cars that are being stolen out of Canada. Now, I don't know if anybody is aware, but Canada's car scene is being smitten with thievery. Every time you turn around, somebody's car is getting stolen, carjacked violently. It's like everywhere out there. It's like that's the biggest thing. So this one guy in particular, shout to Draco, he said, I toyed with the idea of electrifying the door handles. That's a little crazy. What happens if it malfunctions? Yo, y'all tell you, kid Draco, you a crazy one, man. Y'all don't get on Draco bad side, y'all, because he'll set your doors on fire. I don't know. But there was a guy who lived in Canada, and he had bought, he liked the Yukon trucks or whatever, Toyota, not Toyota, Chevy, Denali Yukon trucks. He had the Yukon XL, as a matter of fact, right? So he ends up buying one Yukon XL. Is stolen from in front of his house. Now, mind you, he got a driveway with no gate. So you already know what happens there, right? They stole the first one. So he buys another one. He get the insurance money. He buys another one. And they steal that one. But luckily, he had an Apple iTag. He had an Apple tag in it, right? So he said, you know what? I'm going to track my car and I'm going to find it. He tracked the car. The car went from one side of Canada. It went from, they stole it from Toronto, Ontario area. They took it all the way to Montreal, and he said that's where it stopped, in a Montreal boating yard. So now he takes a drive out there. He tells the police, he's like, listen, I found my cars in a Montreal boat yard, right? So what do? He get the police go out there, but apparently because it's a boat yard, they don't have jurisdiction in there where they can't do anything about. They got to talk to the other authorities there, and they got to do something about it. Because for all we know, and for everybody that don't know, these boat crates that they be shipping, that they ship a lot of these crates in, they don't get searched. Like 97% of them do not get searched. They only give like an airway bill or a way bill to let them know what's inside of the crate, and that's that. A lot of them, they don't have the manpower to go through all of them. So this guy says his Apple tag stopped there. They wouldn't check the can where he thought his car was in. So the next thing you know, he got to forget about it. He does what he has to do with insurance. He said about 2 weeks later, the air tag came on in Dubai. This is where it gets crazy. The air tag came on in Dubai. He sees the car in Dubai. Which you got to hold up. I got to turn the music on because shout to Apple. I'm an Android guy myself. I don't care what y'all say. Apple, Android is gonna be a battle, but shout to Apple. He tracked it in Dubai. Now he can see the car moving from Dubai. I believe it went from Dubai to like the Middle East. I forget exactly where, but the car ends up in Africa. It put it on another boat, and it ended up in Africa. This guy was really, I'll give it to him too. He really wanted his truck back. He flew all the way to Africa with his title and keys and went out there and found his truck. VIN number, everything is the same VIN number that he had on his title. He went to the U.S. Embassy with this problem, and they said, there's nothing we can do. He said, I got the keys. I got the title. He said, the VIN numbers match. And mind you, his truck was in a lot full of other Yukon XLs. We're not talking about, this was a dealership lot. We're not talking about somebody selling it like it was in their driveway. It was being sold out of a dealership. And they told him there was nothing they could do, and that he had no jurisdiction to take that car. And I just could not believe it. So now he's paying the lawyers to fight to get his car back. And they even asked him on CNBC. They said, well, listen, is it worth it? Like, and the man says something that I think all car guys, and if you ever owned something and you had it stolen, he said, I want my car back. And that's that. Like, you can see he's digging in the dirt now. He said, they stole my first Yukon. And he said, he said, I can't let it happen again. And I felt that, man. No, you can't. I don't care. And now that you know it's organized crime, it's like, well, what are they doing about that? So it's just crazy how that could be happening to the JDM cars that we buying. That could be happening to the Euro spec cars we buying. Maybe, you never know. And it's like, I know when they close that loophole and they actually able to see where these stolen cars and things are going, that will be the shakeup the automotive world would not be ready for. Shout out to Drake. Draco said that lot would have been on fire. Why do I believe you? I'm telling you. They would not give him his car. He unlocked the car with the key. Boop, boop. Said it's not his. They said there's nothing he could do about it. Went to the embassy. You would think at this point, if this man went this far, that the embassy would say to themselves, yo, you know what? You know what? Go get his car, bring it back here, whoever. Or do what they got to do. They didn't do that. They did not do that. They told him he can't have it. They said you're out of your jurisdiction. And that blows my mind. Like, wow. Imagine somebody stealing your stuff like that. They wild for that. Shout to Jessica Grandy. They are wild for that. They told him that he couldn't have it. I said, Wick, I don't know. Just like Draco said, I don't know if I would. I probably would have had to pull off a James Bond moment, or, you know, a Mission Impossible, set them all on fire and drive out the lot with my joint, man. I'm sorry, man. And have this shit back home because it's mine. But it just goes to show this automotive thievery thing goes really deep. So to think that it stops with, oh, they stole it, it's out in the neighborhood somewhere. No, it's not the case. They're sending these cars overseas. And then the thing was, they had a whole they put out a classified ad for the truck in Africa. And when they put the ad out, it said Yukon XL. First off, it was going for $80,000. That was crazy. But not only that, they said, oh, it's North American, Canadian spec. Like they knew everything about this car. And it's just, I'm telling you, this organized crime for auto thievery goes deep. And I mean, the guy that they was even talking to, that they had closed one of the rings of one of the guys he said that they was getting $10,000 a car. Well, $5,000 a car. $5,000 a car, crew of 4 dudes. They booked 4 cars in one night. That's $20,000. $5,000 a piece in one night. No wonder they making a career out of it. But you just got to say to yourself, is it worth it? And then we're not talking about the situations where, somebody come out strapped. Or better yet, let's say you going to put out your garbage and you happen to run into somebody trying to steal your car. They shoot and kill you. It's crazy. I'm telling you, I saw that and I was like, wow, man. He really went all the way. He tracked that car with that Apple tag. He went, and another thing that drives me up the wall, they stole it. It's like they didn't even bother. They didn't care after that if it had an air tag or not, or if they didn't care. Nobody cares. They just took the car and they rocked with it. So you got to say to yourself, man, that's a crazy thing, man. Shout out to everybody. I didn't mean to go off on a tangent. Shout out to everybody who's tuned in, paying attention. We appreciate all of y'all, man. You already know what it is, man. We in here rocking early. But I will say, for the most part, what would you do if somebody stole your car and it ended up in another country and you found it? It ended up in another country and you find it. That is crazy. And when I saw that whole CNBC thing, and then, once you find it on YouTube, everybody knows this. Once you find it on YouTube, you start seeing things like that. Start seeing, and it was more and more. And this is what led me to our next story. And not for nothing, this one right here is actually very interesting, because this is what I'm talking about being a silly criminal. But now you got to understand what's at stake here. If that's the case, right? If that's the case, you can see why somebody would be comfortable trying to do what these guys are doing. So if you haven't heard about it already, Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Now, if you don't know her, she's been a Supreme Court justice. She was actually, I believe, a judge in NYC. If you've listened to any of Dapper Dan's stories, he talks about how she headed a sting operation to close down Dapper Dan and seeing all of the Gucci clothes and things that he had. And she told him, this stuff is some of the most beautiful stuff I've ever seen. We got to confiscate it, but it's the most beautiful she's ever seen. So to get into it a little bit, it looks like Justice Sonia Sotomayor's security detail shot a man during an attempted carjacking. Now, this is crazy. So a member of Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor's security detail shot an armed man during an attempted carjacking in the early morning hours in Washington, D.C. It happened as two deputy U.S. Marshals were on duty in a government car in Washington, D.C. at about 1 a.m. on July 5th. They were confronted by a man who got out of a silver minivan and pointed a gun at one of them through the driver's side window. According to a criminal complaint, the car was unmarked, but the pair was dressed in U.S. Marshal shirts. The deputy pulled out his department-issued gun and shot the man 4 times, hitting him in the mouth. He then gave the man first aid while the minivan drove away, charges state. The suspect was hospitalized and placed under arrest on suspicion of attempted carjacking and resisting arrest. Whoa. So first off, right? Y'all already know what he get.
It's the Understeer.
What up?
Where we like to ask, what the hell were you thinking?
He gets the Understeer. So out of all the places in Washington, D.C. where he could go and carjack somebody, or they could roll up and carjack somebody, they pull up and they try to carjack 2 U.S. Marshals.
It's the Understeer.
What up?
Where we like to ask, what the hell were you thinking?
And now you try to carjack them, you point a pistol at them, they draw the hammer because they out there doing security detail for the Supreme Court justice. And they let you have it. They let him have it. Now he's sitting in the hospital with a bullet hole in his mouth, and we ain't talking like he gonna get paid from it later or that he gonna have a rap career. What was he doing? He didn't see. They said they had U.S. Marshal jackets on. You gotta. I'm telling you. So that just tells you that the thievery is beneficial. If he was willing to do that, the thievery is beneficial. or at least to them. That right there made him.
It's the Understeer,
What up?
where we like to ask, what the hell were you thinking?
So I gotta say, man, sometimes you just gotta wonder about people. It's like, are you using your brain at all? Like, these are the kind of situations that you can get caught in and you never see them coming. But this was actually interesting. I did pick it for the Understeer. However, I wanted to get into a little bit because we're talking about car thievery. It's like we talking like I'm trying to understand his mind frame, but then again, we got to ask you, what was you thinking? So very interesting little situation he had for himself right there. But in the meantime, it looks like we're going to talk about my man Lewis Hamilton once again. He looks like he pulls out the victory in Silverstone. And I mean, he hasn't won in 56 races. And he's a 7-time world champion. Now, he just made history at his home race, becoming the oldest driver to win at a Grand Prix in the 21st century. Hamilton's first win came 17 years ago in the Canadian Grand Prix when he was 22 years old, and he's 39 right now. He captured his 104th victory. This is the longest interval between the driver's first win and their most recent win in F1 history. Hamilton's win came against the two top championship contenders, Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. Now, why is that important? Because at the end of the day, he's moving on to Ferrari. So this is the last time that he's going to drive in this Grand Prix with Mercedes. He's going to be in Ferrari uniform after this. So if it was just big to him, I don't know if any of y'all seen it, but the man broke down in full tears, man. While he was talking to them on the microphones in the helmet, he just told him it was a big win and it's something he really needed, man. And I can only imagine. You give this man a proper car, you give this man he don't even need a chance because I believe he could beat anybody out there. But give him a proper car, you see what he do. Very interesting. Shout to him, man. You already know what it is, man. Shout to Miller Time. He said insurance will handle it. I hear you. And we talking about the stolen cars. Insurance will handle it, but you always lose. And I got to point this out because I didn't notice until they stole my motorcycle. When they stole my motorcycle, I still had payments left, right? So what the insurance company did was they went and they negotiated with the bank and they only paid, they got rid of the finance charges and they only paid what was left, right? So after that, I think I was left with about $2,500 at that point. And then they took their deductible. So yeah, we're gonna take that that $500 deductible. They took that too. So I was left with $2,000. Now, I took a loss because at the end of the day, I made payments and I put down money. So it's like at that point, you losing. And the fact that they was able to negotiate the interest off of it, I was like, wow, that was crazy. But I took a loss because I put down money and I made a monthly payment. I did, however, get I got about that was about 75% of all of that at the end, but you still lose. You still lose. So I gotta say, man, it was a very enlightening situation. So you could see how somebody could be upside down in the car. If you have, let's say, for instance, you went out there and you bought yourself something nice. You're like, you know what, I'm gonna get myself a Mercedes Benz, and it gets stolen, right? You don't have gap coverage, right? Or let's say you don't have gap coverage, but the car is now not worth what you're paying for it. You feel what I'm saying? Shout to Drinker, it's a very expensive rental. Yeah. So now, let's say for instance, you spent $50,000 on this car, right? You drive it off the lot, it depreciates. Let's say you've been driving it around for maybe a year. It depreciates with value. Now, somebody steals it. Now, because you paying interest and everything, let's say you down after that year, you only down $5,000. You only put $5,000 down in that $50,000. So now you owe $45,000. Insurance company is saying to you, listen, the value of the car, we're going to value it at $39,000. So now you're like, wait a minute. So what about that $6,000? And you don't got the gap coverage. So now they pay you, right? You left with $6,000 that you owe. So what happens? You take out another loan for another car and they add that into the loan. So now this is how somebody could be paying $800 to $900 for a Nissan Altima because they got it upside down. So it's a scheme. It's a scheme. It's a scheme. Shout to Drake. He said, but it's different from a brand new Civic and a 30-year-old whip you bled and cried for. I will say this. You know what, man? It's a lot of thievery going on right now everywhere. And I mean, like, no matter what it is, you see these guys pulling up on people, robbing them while they eating outside. They robbing them for $65,000 watches and things like that while they outside eating. So you got to say to yourself, man, is it really worth it? But this is why the minimalists, people are like, yo, you know what? They're not even bothering going out. They're not spending $100,000. Like they were stealing $65,000 watches. Who walking around with a $70,000? Like if you're walking, you're playing yourself. If you have a $70,000 watch and you're walking, it's a problem. But that's what's going on out here. Shout out to everybody who's tuned in, paying attention. You know how we get down. We're going to get right back to what we talk about, and that is these autos. We got something we're going to talk about right now. Let's get to it.
It's Tech Talk with Pop the Bearded One and S.I Shawn.
All right, you already know what it is, man. You know how we get down here. Don't forget. You already know who it is here. Bearded One, we in the building. Rally Radio. Don't forget, check us out Saturdays, 12 noon. YouTube at GutterballRally. Facebook at GutterballRally. Download the Bars and Hoops Radio app. And you can listen to us on the move, man. You already know what it is. It's official. Porsche's gas-powered Boxster, this hurts, and Cayman will be axed next year. So that's it for the Porsche Cayman and the Porsche Boxster. There's only going to be the Porsche 911 Carrera left at this point. And that's crazy, in my opinion. It's like, you know what? I always wanted these Caymans to see what I mean? We want these cars. We don't pull a trigger, and then they get rid of them, and now you're willing to pay umpteen amounts of dollars for it. Shout out to Drake. He said, like Denzel said, I'm leaving with something. I'll be at the pearly gates with somebody's eyeball, John Wick. Yo, Draco, you a crazy one, man. I got to say that. You're a crazy guy, man. But with the Porsches with them ending production, this is another problem for the ICE cars. Like, it's like these car companies like, yeah, you know, we pulling them. And it's not, I don't think that it's not that they're not selling. That's how you know the government is involved. But Porsche Cayman is going to be out of production. Porsche Boxster is going to be out of production. What does that do for their value? Obviously, we already know. Since you have a 718 or a GT4, it's going to shoot your value up. And this is how we get caught into always buying a car we should have had then. We buying it years later and for double and quadruple the price. And this is really the formula here. The fact that a lot of these cars are in fact being taken off the road or not being made, they out of production. And you know, it's not that we didn't expect it one time or another, but I guess it just seems so abrupt. We got a story coming out of it looks like the Midwest, where a guy actually bought a Toyota Land Cruiser for $170,000 off Bring a Trailer. And this is what I mean. Shout to Draco. He said, what model does Akira of RWB use? I think his is like his is definitely a 911, but I think his is an older model. I think his is like a 964. I think his is like a 964, and then after it's very hard to tell because of the amount of work that he does to these cars. But if anybody's ever seen an RWB wide body Porsches, yeah, I think his is a 964 though. I think his is an older version. It's not a newer version. It's not a newer Porsche. I mean, it's a fact. Now we're talking about another Porsche that's out of here. But this guy paid $170,000 for a Toyota Land Cruiser. Now, don't get me wrong. For the fact that like a 92 Toyota or 95 Toyota Land Cruiser is still around is amazing. But $170,000? What could he have bought for that? And you gotta just say to yourself, well, maybe he was just that much in love with those cars. But I mean, $170,000 when you just say those numbers to yourself, you got to say to yourself, I don't know if I could do that. But it's just, it's crazy, you know? But we're going to get into it. Oh, let's see if the phones is working. Rally Radio, we got in the box. All right. This time, Miller, I don't know. We should be in good shape. Can you hear the caller? Let me know if you can hear the caller. Let me know if you can hear the caller. I ain't saying anything whatsoever. Not yet, anyway. But it's all good. What you got? What you got for us, Miller? Right. Right. I'm telling you. Yeah. Right. Uh-huh. The F-150, believe it or not, has always been high on the death list. Shout to my guy Reeps. He's in the building early. You already know what it is. Shout to Draco. He said they can't hear you. We are trying to fix this audio issue. But in the meantime, though, I will say at the end of the day, when it comes to the thievery and like how people, and it seems like it's past just like being like trying to be behind the scenes. It's like these guys know what they're going after. Like when I seen the thing with the watch, the 65, how would you know by riding by somebody that they have a 65 or $100,000 watch? That means they've been watching you a long time. Literally. So it's like when you look at the thievery and stuff like that, it's like when it comes to the autos, see, the autos are a little different because they're, you may not like I said, the type off it's flashy. It's not, you don't mean it to be. You want the car, but this is what it is. When you look at a Porsche, these Porsches look a certain way. You know, it is what it is. And I think this is one of the reasons why car guys like to build too. They like to hide the flash. They like for it to be a sleeper. Right, 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 right. That's a fact. That's a fact. That's a fact. So with that being said, Miller, because they can't hear us, we just gonna keep the call short. I'm a I'm gonna jump right in. Like I said, we're gonna figure out what's going on with it, but you already know what it is. Miller, we appreciate you for calling in. You know how it is. Tune into the show. You already know what we got going on. And we got some other things coming up that we definitely gonna talk about coming towards the end of the show. You already know what it is. All right, Miller, later. Shout out to my guy Miller, man. See, I couldn't hear the caller. We apologize, man. Couple technical difficulties. The phone is sometimes it's in and it's out. I don't know. We gotta figure that out once and for all. But other than that, you see the studio going on right behind us. You already know what it is. But with that being said, we got to think about that. And I think that a lot of times has a lot to do with why we don't buy certain cars as soon as they come out. I think about at the time, the biggest thing when we first started getting into this. Shout to my guy. Oh, shout to my guy Ryan, man. He said I heard it through the app. I don't know. It's something with the setup or with not really what we have here is with social media. They do that a lot of times with the phone calls. I don't know what it is. But with that being said, man, it's like at the time when we first got into this thing, the biggest car on the street was the Integra Type R, right? I had only seen maybe a couple of them. And every time you turn around, it's like you would see a guy with a Type R, and it's like he looked like he was like guarding a fortress. He ain't want nobody looking there. Don't touch it. I don't know if like it's just crazy. And they was getting stolen left and right. And then it turned out to be that, oh, they swapping the parts. They putting the parts on the Civic, and now the EG got a 5-lug setup. And it's like, yo, that thievery has a lot to do with you not buying a car then too, and then buying it years later. Because if you didn't have a place to park it, you really wasn't trying to own it. So it's just something to think about there as well, man. I would say that ultimately, when it comes down to it, you definitely don't want to buy more car than you can handle it. And that's in all aspects, whether it's driving, whether it's where you parking it, can you afford it? Can you afford the maintenance? Like let me tell you, it's a lot to it, man. But shout out to everybody who's paying attention. Porsche is now closing the door on the Porsche Cayman and the Porsche Boxster. But when one door closes, one door opens. And with that being said, it looks like Honda's trying to bring back the Prelude. How do y'all feel about that? I don't know if y'all seen the pictures. If you follow us on Instagram, you probably seen the pictures. It's crazy out there. Shout to Reach. He said, that's facts. He said, I wanted an EK coupe, but I'm afraid it's going to get stolen. That's a fact. It's a Honda, and it's high on the list, especially if you get an EX. God forbid you get a SI 99 SI coupe. Forget it. You might like you're gonna have to park that in your basement. It's the only way. But you know it's always been like that. But now here comes Honda again. Honda confirms the return of the Prelude. It's headed to Europe. There's still no word on the U.S. return, though, for the sports compact car. And it looks like, for the most part, it's going to have a 2-liter engine putting out about 200 horsepower. It's a two-door, which shocks me because Honda said they would do no more two-door vehicles. So now you got to say to yourself, you're like, wow, Honda really jumped out the window. But I mean, is there even a market for this car? Like, is anybody like really like? I've seen it. If to me it looks like the V6 Honda Accord coupe. That's what it looks like to me. So it looks like if they put a Type R powertrain in this thing, it'd be worth it. But I don't know if you've seen it. Coupe. Look like the regular run-of-the-mill coupe. I can't say nothing stands out, really. Only the fact that it's a Prelude. And I know before they was talking about making this thing electric. I guess that didn't go over so well. And now they talking about, we're going to make it gas-powered, 4-cylinder. But I don't know, man. It's just, I feel like they put it down and that was that. However, when you do look at the side profile of the car, it does have big brakes. It looks like they're going to have big brakes. So I don't know if it's coming to the American market, but Honda has said that they will release the Prelude. So it makes you think to yourself, you know what? Hey, maybe there's room. Maybe there's room because now on top of that, Subaru it has a Project Midnight Tarmac Time Attack Monster, 670 horsepower, 2,500 pounds. And now that and this is Subaru. So this is actually something that, Subaru doesn't seem like they want to release another STI. See, they're doing everything. They got the, what's that? The TS powered by STI. Like, I don't know. Subaru is playing a lot of different games. Look like they stuck in the limbo of going electric or not. It looks like they don't know what they want to do. But this car in particular was built by Subaru, and it was a different approach. It was called the Midnight WRX. It's built to stick to the pavement. And they're going to give it to the Gymkhana guys. It was made famous by the Gymkhana guys in 2020. But now it looks like it's for sale. It's all black, and it has Subaru's Rally stickers on the side, but they're reversed in black. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful car. I guess I don't think they're gonna make this one though. I think at the end of the day, it doesn't say that it's gonna be mass produced. They made this for somebody, but Subaru is just letting you know that they can do it. That they can do it if they need to do it. But with that being said, man, we're gonna move right on. You know how we get down here. Let's go.
Driver's etiquette. Dog, because sometimes you got to get this off your chest.
So, with that being said, we're going right back to our topic. Why do we always want the cars we should have bought years later? Why do we do that to ourselves? Especially as car guys, car girls. You know what I mean? Everybody who loves your auto, you always had that one car you always wanted. You could have had it, then you didn't get it. And then when you get older, you're like, yo, you know what? I could get it. But now the prices is through the roof, especially now going through with the gas versus EV thing or whatever. So why do we always want that car years later? So many different advancements. I think about rebuying the CRX after I had lost my first one. So when I had my first one, did a lot of different work, drove it a lot. That was my very first car. And, you know, due to circumstances beyond my control, the car actually was taken from me, right? So now, me getting this second CRX was me buying this car again years later. But then you always got I just want a CRX. I had so many parts that I was putting on the car that still wasn't on the car just yet. And at that point, once the car was taken, I was like, you know what? I could sell these parts and go get something else. And I just couldn't do it. I said, no, I need a CRX. So I went all the way to North Carolina to go get one, and I got it before the rise in price because now they're like $5,000 to $7,000. But what's that car that you wish or that you wanted then that you would break the bank for now? And what's the stipulations on that? Drop it in the comments below because obviously the phone line's acting out right now. Drop it in the comments below. What's that one car that you should have bought then and that you would break the bank for now? There's a couple cars that I could think of that I should have had and I always wanted and I just never did, and I had the chance and I just didn't get a chance to do it. I'll say, like I said, for the Hellcat, I wanted a Hellcat Challenger manual badly. And when they was around, I was like, you know what? I could get one. I kept putting it off. Like, I just got to situate this, situate that, and then I'm going to go get one. You know, life happens. And then next thing you know, you like, man, I don't have it right now, but I'm going to get one. At the time when I did have it is now COVID happens. Now they're not selling a manual one because I wanted a brand new one. They're not selling a manual anymore. They're like, oh, you know, we could get you a Scat Pack. I don't want a Scat Pack. I want the Hellcat. They wasn't supposedly selling them with a manual transmission. It was automatic transmission. Obviously, we all know the story here. I did not buy it. I ended up going back to the drawing board for another car that I wanted. I went and ended up getting the Type R. Now, obviously, the Type R is new to me, but it is used, right? But at the end of the day, I got it. But I say to myself, I'm going to come back. I'm going to double back for this Hellcat. And I know I am. But I know the prices is going to be through the roof. And it's like, damn, like, why do we do that to ourselves? Every trip. And it's like, you know, the more that I see them, I see what's going on with them as far as the stealing is uncanny. People crashing them. There's all kind of stuff going on. But I still want it. That doesn't change it. So I say that to say, for a lot of car guys, man, we always get to the point where we always wonder what if with a certain car. And I think that has a lot to do with it too. You know, I was with my family. We was driving back from Atlantic City. And as we driving back, you know, I'm always looking at cars that's on the road, you know, and I saw this Dodge Viper. Oh, he came flying by us. Woo! You can see it was him and his wife, older couple. He went flying by us, and I mean, he had it at a consistent 85, like no problem. I'm just watching. I'm like, for those that don't know, the Viper was also on my list. However, I said, I don't know if my driveway is wide enough for a Viper. I don't know. We could laugh, but it's just thinking about all other things that you got to have in place to have a car like that. Like I was like, I don't know if this thing will fit in my driveway, man. Like, not that my driveway is narrow, but a Viper is wide. And I'm like, I don't know if this thing will fit in there. Will I be able to get it all the way into the driveway? I have to sit it in the front. There's going to turn into people looking at it. People want to, you never know what happens. Yes, shout to the Brown Hornet, V10 Dodge Viper. Shout to the Brown Hornet for tuning in. You already know what it is. Shout to him. Right, V10 Viper. And you got to say, and it's like, there's a lot of things that got to be in place, especially for if you're trying to still be slightly fiscally responsible. There's a lot of things that come into place when you talking about owning a car like that or a Hellcat or something that we know costs a lot of money. Even though it's going to give you the performance that you want, it's going to cost you a lot of money. So it's like, you know what? You got to make sure things are in place. Parking, obviously. Can you afford the insurance? You might be able to afford the car. But I don't know about y'all. I had some speeding tickets back in the day. They done with for now, but the insurance probably still gonna be high. And then you got to think about the other little things. Thievery being one of them. Now, if you're spending $90,000, what else are you gonna spend to keep the car? It's like it's a lot of things, a lot of reasons why we always but then we double back. We feel like we've gotten older. We feel like we a little bit more responsible, fiscally responsible, have a lot of different things. Shout to Brown Hornet. He said facts, insurance, maintenance. These are key things as to why. Like I remember, you know how many guys we know, your tires. Hey, big deal with Vipers. Because you ain't getting those off Tire Rack. You ain't getting those off Discount Tire. You know what I'm saying? Like those tires are wide in the rear, pause. But, when you think about it, right? That is a lot of reasons why when I was younger, we would see guys that went out and bought that Audi S4. And it's in his driveway all the time. You're trying to figure out why. Because it broke and he can't fix it. And he can't spend the bread to fix it. And that is another problem that comes into car ownership, which is why sometimes we go for them years down the road. And then the nostalgia of them. You think about the Supra, the MK3 Supra, right? You think about the Datsuns. You think about, like, when I think about nostalgia as older JDM cars or older European cars, you start to think about those and you go to yourself, it's just the nostalgia of that car. Like, even though when I see my CRX now, it reminds me of a time when I was young. It reminded me of a time of the way I drove that car. It reminds me of a time in my life, a time period in my life. So it's like, yeah, I love the CRX. You feel what I'm saying? But it has more of a mental grab on me because of the things I've done with that car. You know what I mean? So just to keep that in mind, this is a lot of times why we may want a car, but do we double back? We may double back years later because of the fact that we didn't have all those other things in place to truly own it. It's like if you bought a Type R in the year 2000 or 99, a brand new 2000 Type R, if you still have it, you, sir, have evaded the gauntlet of every type of situation, from car thieves down to the city, down to tickets, down to inspect. Like, you've dealt with all of those things and you've come out on the other side. Because I'm gonna tell you, if you wasn't ready for that, you couldn't have it. Imagine having a Type R, and you're a young guy, you live in the buildings. Yeah, it's a good chance it's gonna get stolen. And I feel like a lot of guys know that. Shout to Nick. He said, talk about nostalgia. My dad got that 1974 Plymouth Gold Duster 4 years ago, sitting in the garage, never out. And this is exactly what I mean. At the end of the day, we want to own it for whatever it means to us. It's not all the time that it's always about performance. It's a lot of times it's about what the car means to you, which is why you'll double back to get it years later. Because a lot of people will try to understand why you want a 20-year-old car. Why you want a 30-year-old car? That's why. That's why, because a lot of times we have it on our hearts that we should have bought it then, and we didn't. And we go back to finish the job. You feel what I'm saying? So it's something we got to really think about, man. You know what I mean? Like, we definitely got to think about that. You make a move, you think about owning a car and or not owning that specific car. And then who's to say you see a clean example of it when you come back to it? That's another thing. And I think that's what I'm going to have to contend with when it comes to the Hellcat, the Challenger, manual. You know, the next time you get your hands on somebody that most likely did whatever they wanted to do with it. They done did burnouts. They done did all kind of different things to it. And now you got to fix that. And that, I think, let's see what we got. Rally Radio, who we got in the box? All right, give me a hot second. Hold on, Dave. I'm gonna call you back. So that's my thing. At the end of the day, it's like you gotta really take those things in consideration. And now we talking about a better engine setup. We talking about all kind of different things that are out now, but you're still gonna want your old nostalgia car. And it's what it is. Shout to Shy. He said it's why Corvette guys are all 40 plus, because they matured and the insurance is balanced. That's another thing. No way could I could have had a Type R back then. My insurance would have. I was paying $3,000 to $5,000 for just a Mazda 626. So imagine that, man. Imagine that. I want y'all to think about that for a little bit. We're going to take a little intermission. I got a little band that we're going to play right here. Not going nowhere just yet. Not going nowhere just yet. Just give me 2 seconds. All right, we are back. We are back. Ah, my guy Dave just came to visit real quick. Shout out to my guy Dave, man. Shout out to everybody tuned in, paying attention. You already know what it is. Shout out to my guy Dave. He's in the building early.
Peace, y'all. Good afternoon.
One more time.
Good afternoon, everyone.
So my thing is always going to be, at the end of the day, like I said, when it comes down to always wanting something and then double backing for later on in your life, a lot of times, like you said, things just aren't right. And you start to realize, like, how precious these things are. Like, not precious, but like, how could I put it? Like, how all your ducks got to be in a row before you actually go out there and you buy one of these things. It's like, you got to really think of that. What's your thoughts on that, Dave? As far as wanting something, or not something, a car rather. Let's say you wanted a car, you didn't buy it then. Now you get older and you say to yourself, you know what, man, I'm going to buy this car. What's your thoughts?
When you get older, you probably don't have the same feel, but it's like a double take in life. So it's like you're reaching back for something that you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So, and sometimes, you just can't take it with you. So sometimes you feel you get to that point where you reaching for it, you go for it.
Facts. And that's, I believe that's a big thing too. Like, can't take it with you. You know what I mean? You can't, like you're not just gonna just not have. And I never understood that about a lot of times people say, oh, it's just a car. And that's when I started to know I was different from everybody else. Because it's not just a car. You know what I mean? Not to me. So it's like, it's definitely different, man. Definitely different. I say to myself all the time, when it comes down to being, loving cars and just wanting to be around them, a lot of times, people just not gonna understand why you doing it. But
let me ask you a question. Your car you got out there, how many years you had that?
2.
So that's not your precious jewel.
No, it is.
So that's a car. You got a connection. You build.
Yes, I'm building still.
You fixed it up.
Well, I tell you what, I didn't fix this one up though. Not the blue one outside.
Okay.
Not the blue one outside. But still building that relationship that you're talking about. Like I love the car. I haven't been through as many things as I could say I've been through with like my Infinity.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? My Type R, like my CRX. You know what I mean? My motorcycle. Like I've been through some wars with these things. And not the black CRX too. I keep saying, I got to remind people that my red CRX. I have been through so much with that car. But continue on. That's like one of those things where it's like the Type R we still building. I did the Dragon's Tail with the Type R.
Right.
Which was pretty cool. Found one of the coolest roads upstate. Shout out to my guy, Dr. Phil. Found some of the coolest roads upstate. Was driving that. Drove to different places. But I'll say, at the end of the day, I look forward to doing more with that car. You know what I mean?
So you put a lot into it.
Yes.
So it's hard to part with things that you put a lot of feeling, money, and time with. So certain things, you know, like if you didn't have it for a long time and you felt that you was sort of throwing away bad money after good money, maybe you could let it go. But certain things that you put
effort
and your time and your emotion in, you make a connection with it.
This is true. I didn't look at it like that. This is true. I mean, you kind of do is just, like you said, at the end of the day, there's just certain things you like. I would have to be doing really bad to be like, yo, you know what? The Type R gotta go.
Nah, I was just thinking.
You know what I mean?
I had a Beamer.
I
took it for my daughter. And it was just sort of milking me, so I had to let it go. But I was,
But you didn't have a connection to it like that.
I guess no, just a pocket.
That's it.
Next to my pocket.
Just the pocket.
And I think Coach Kirk was like, "Yo, man, let that go." And I'm like, you're right. And I was just thinking that I could have got it where I wanted it.
Right.
Because like sometimes when it ran good, but it ran bad more than it ran good. So I had to let it go.
I hear that. I say to myself all the time, man, like there's just times where, like you say, you just can't let them go. You just can't let it go. It is what it is. That was actually a good analogy, man. Shout out to my guy Dave. He's in the building. For those that don't know who Dave is, my man Super Dave.
First stop to the next stop.
Let's
Mondays, 4:30 to 6:30. Talk about it all in the world of sports.
All in the world of
Shout
sports.
out to Coach Kurt, Serge the Sports Star, Slick the Relic, and Todd the Magnificent. So that's my cast of characters. We don't necessarily know what we're talking about, but we just try to air it out. And, we welcome people to chime in and correct us if we're wrong on some things.
That's a fact. That's a fact. So with that being said, we're going to move on with the rest of the show. You know how we get down here. Got some things we're going to talk about here. But our most favorite one, and this right here, this one is actually a reckless situation, in my opinion. And it happens to a lot of people. That's why we're going to give it a little bit of time.
It's the Understeer.
What up?
Where we like to ask, what the hell were you thinking?
So with that being said, we're going to jump into our next little understeer right here. This is actually crazy. Camaro ZL1 goes in for service. Dealership employee wrecks it instead. That's crazy to me. Now, mind you, we're talking about a Camaro ZL1. For those that don't know, this is definitely going to be one of the more highly sought after Camaros, because now with them discontinuing the Camaro, these are the cars that are left. And it looks like he took it to service. This is crazy. These are the kind of things. This is why I feel like a lot of times I want to work on my car by myself. I don't want to take it to no dealership because they do stuff like this. Or if I take mine to the dealership, I'm sitting there for the 4 hours. Because ain't no way you're gonna go spinning out the back with my brand new Camaro ZL1. But it looks like this is what it is. It says these nightmares have come such a reality. There was a guy named Kenny Habul who reportedly provided specific instructions stating his 2018 Chevy Camaro ZL1 LE Hendrick Edition was not under any circumstances to be driven off the lot by the employees by H&L Chevrolet in Darien, Connecticut. According to the lawsuit filed in Stanford District Superior Court, Habul's was not obeyed. After bringing in his custom-tuned 6.2-liter supercharged V8 Camaro ZL1 because it wouldn't start. Who knows why the car wouldn't start? That's crazy. The folks at H&L Chevrolet were supposed to replace a faulty clutch switch. Instead, the lawsuit alleges that the service advisor Matthew Sebastian took the muscle car on a wild joyride, hitting up to 89 miles an hour on the I-95 before losing control and impacting the shoulder guardrail. The driver, alleged to be Sebastian, was not wearing a seatbelt at the time of the crash. Post-crash analysis on the onboard factory track data recorder shows the accelerator was depressed 95% and mere 3 seconds before the crash. So this dude was full throttle 3 seconds before the car smashed into the guardrails. This is crazy. Which ultimately totaled the limited edition model. It's totaled now, y'all.
Ooh.
Total. It says valued at $97,000 in a recent appraisal. Habul had never driven the Hendrix Edition Camaro on the road before, instead keeping it as a collector's vehicle. Hold up.
It's the understeer,
What up?
where we like to ask, what the hell were you thinking?
So this dude Habul, he gets the understeer too, because how the hell you had a car like that and it was a collector's model? Prior to the crash, the model only had 989 miles. I'm gonna tell you, whatever car crash place that's in, I would go get it. What you got to say, Dave?
I think that he should have brought in a specialist to his house instead of taking it there. Or like you said,
Damn,
he should have
that's a fact.
babysitted.
That's a fact. He should have definitely brought a specialist there, kid. Because
Woo.
now,
That
oh boy, I can hear Ronald. Somebody getting hurt. Yo, somebody getting their head chopped off for that. Shout out to my guy Reeves. He said, "You see how all of that was recorded? How much throttle it had, how fast he was going. That's why I don't like new cars. Nothing is proper. I mean, yo, but no. It wasn't. I don't know if it was just if that was stock or if it did have a track record in it. So you're right, Reeves. Shout out to Maul. He said, management granting more days off. Yeah, you know how that go, man. He got 12 new sick days, man. He using it. But I gotta say, after hearing this, right? 980, whatever crash lot this car, salvage lot this car ends up in, it's worth fixing.
yeah,
You know how much
collector's item.
if it's valued at $97,000, how much damage was done to the car that they wrote it off? I don't know. That seems like a Gas Monkey Garage special. But according to the policeman who investigated the crash, the road was clear and there was no debris on the pavement other than that which resulted from the incident. Sebastian was also cited for failure to maintain in his lane, according to a police report obtained by Automotive News. Based on the onboard data recorded in police statements, this sounds like a classic case of too much power and not enough care in how it was applied. And that is why he gets.
It's the understeer,
What up?
where we like to ask, what the hell were you thinking?
I mean, that hurts.
Yes.
Could you imagine lose? Yeah, that's what I mean. And that's another thing about autos, and we're going to talk about that too on another show. It's not that you can't afford to lose it, but you can't afford to lose it.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, if it's a cash value thing, yeah, it is what it is. But we talking about something that you really want. Like, and we think about the value of these cars now. When these cars turn and they get more and more rare, and it's like 97,000 is not going to heal that wound. I want blood.
And some.
And some. So listen, I want your firstborn. Listen, I want your arm, your leg, arm, head, man. Let's go. Listen, I want his life. And that's just a whole nother aspect, you know. Shout to Shy. He said Leon Lott is our guy here. The cat cars are more for display and show for school events. But I got spooked doing it when you talking about the guy Lott, Leon Lott? he bought all the sheriffs in South Carolina for Mustang GTs.
No doubt.
But I will say that to me, this is why I say it also when it comes to owning cars and doubling back, because you can't take that loss. Imagine losing your car at the hands of somebody else. That is it for me.
Painful.
That is painful. If I lose control of it and not crash it, I can deal with that. And I may even have a problem dealing, like, what happened? What was I doing? But at the end of the day, you just got to say to yourself, man, there's no way that should have happened. But with that being said, man, we've reached the end of the show. We're going to call it a little early. You know how we get down, man. You normally here till 2, but today we got some other things we got to get handled. Shout to S.I Shawn. Hope he's feeling better. Shout to my guy, Dave.
Thanks for
Super Dave.
Sit in for a few minutes.
Coming in, you already know what it is. Shout to everybody who's tuned in, who rocked with us. Shout to everybody who rocked with us. Shout to my guy, Reeps. Shout to Shy. Shout to the Brown Hornet, man. We appreciate him for tuning in. We appreciate that early. Shout to everybody. Shout to my guy, Ryan. Shout to Draco. Shout to everybody who tuned in with us, man. We appreciate all of y'all. Shout to Jessica Grandy. Shout to my guy, Darth Spalding, Seneca, Josh. You already know what it is. Aaron. Everybody, Shadow Gamer who rocked with us today. Shout to all of y'all, man. We appreciate all of y'all, man. You got any shout outs you want to give, Dave?
Everybody, again, check us out on Mondays, 4:30, 6:30. And shout out to everybody here listening today, right now.
Let's go. So you know what it is, man. So with that being said, shout out to everybody who rocked with us. We got some videos that's going to be dropping tomorrow. We got something that's going to be dropping on our YouTube channel. We're going in a different route. We're going to still be doing our shows, but we're going to have some live footage of things that we got going on. So with that being said, shout out to all of those that rock with us. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share, put it out there for the people to know. And with that being said, until next week, we are out.
Drop the clutch, hit the gas. Rally Radio, where the fast life meets the fast lane.
Yeah.
You're now tuned into Bars and Hoops Radio. Yeah. The world of hip-hop and sports live.
Dropping the clutch and then I hit the gas. Wheels screeching, tires burning, I'm flying past. Gotta get home quick, don't wanna miss the class. They schooling you on whips and how to make them fast. Talking about everything from cars to planes. What's hot, what's next, and how to flip the game. They talk in my language, we speak the same. That whip talk complex, but yet they keep it plain. From the news, the interviews, they keep it cool. They give reviews, everything from parts to tools. Can't lose, come to whips, they not no fools. Don't miss the show, the start time is noon. The bearded one, S.I Shawn, they crazy though. You can't miss it, tune in to Rally Radio.
Where the fast life